Tesla is expecting to spend over $25 billion this year to fully turn into an AI robotics company. On Wednesday's Q1 earnings call, they even mentioned that they started selling full self-driving or FSD as the product. Your Tesla comes with the box. So where's all this money going? It's investments in data centers, the expansion of factories including Terrafab, their fleet of Tesla-owned Cybercabs and much more. Also, their 10Q just disclosed that they agreed to acquire an unnamed AI hardware company. We'll start with a business update, then their Q1 financials, and we'll end with my share price forecast until the end of 2028. So let's kick things off with Automotive. As discussed in our weekly news video of week 14, vehicle deliveries came out at 342,000 for Model 3 and Y, close to 6% up versus Q1 of 2025. Other models, which includes Model X and S, Cybertruck and the Semi, landed at 16.6 thousand, up 24.8% versus last year. The growth is coming from most geographies, but the CFO highlighted a resurgence in demand in EMEA, and certain countries like France and Germany are showing over 150% growth in deliveries. A key driver they mention is increasing gas prices, which is now painfully clear with the conflict in Iran. My take is that Elon bashing has also died down a bit in Europe. A week ago I saw a Belgian Tesla with the license plate "Thanks Elon. Nature is healing." Here you can see the installed annual manufacturing capacity at the end of Q1 compared to the previous quarter. The only difference here is the removal of the Model X and S line in California, which will be decommissioned after the last production at the end of April. And it will then make way for the preparations of the construction of the first generation Optimus line, somewhere in Q2. People have long been speculating on Tesla coming out with an affordable model. The CFO mentioned the following about it on the call.
10 years back, when we launched Model 3 in the US with a promise of $35,000 starting price, which if you adjust today for inflation translates to about $48,000 in today's dollar terms. The starting price of Model 3 today is way less than that, while the product is way more compelling from where it started.
So you can forget about them coming out with some type of Toyota Corolla killer. On the Semi and Cybercab, they mentioned that they expect volume production to start this year. You might know that Tesla is also working on a kind of supercar called the Roadster. This is actually an update of their very first car. This was Tesla's by now legendary approach to start proving the technology and how cool it could actually be by launching a sports car and subsequently launch affordable models. Fans of the Roadster have been waiting forever for this new version, which has been delayed many times because Tesla admits it's not a priority. But on the call, Elon mentioned the following.
Some idea of what our future lineup will be, which is that it's going to be almost entirely autonomous. In fact, long term, the only manually driven car will be the new Tesla Roadster. We may be able to debut that in a month or so. But I think it will be one of the most exciting product unveils ever.
And this is coming from the guy that launches and catches rockets, so this could be pretty cool. Finally, they flagged that their biggest limiter for production continues to be their battery pack capacity, meaning the actual assembly. The batteries themselves are not really the issue. It goes without saying that they are actively working to fix this. Let's move on to Robotaxi and FSD, or full self-driving. As I posted on X in the middle of April, the Dutch authorities have approved FSD supervised. I flagged this as a major deal since it's not only a first step in opening up the full European market to FSD, the EU will evaluate this in May, but also lays the groundwork for a European Robotaxi rollout. And here's what Elon had to say about it.
We're probably jumping the gun here on Robotaxi in Europe, since it took us an immense amount of time just to get supervised self-driving approved in Europe. We don't control the regulators, it's we push as hard as we can, but it's ultimately up to the governments in Europe and the EU to decide what. And obviously the next thing beyond that is to aim for unsupervised self-driving or Robotaxi in Europe. I actually don't know what the time frame for that is. Would be somewhat at the mercy of the regulators as to when that approval would take place.
I think we can sense some frustration about the pace here. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, they are evolving their sales strategy to position FSD supervised as the product and their vehicle as a mere delivery mechanism. So in a sense, they are not really competing against other car manufacturers anymore. They are basically selling transportation robots. And FSD subscriptions grew 51% versus last year. Robotaxi is showing slow but steady growth, doubling the total miles driven in Q1, as you can see here. Today they are scaling the driverless part of their fleet in 3 cities in Texas Texas, whilst they are waiting for approval to remove the safety driver in San Francisco, and preparations to launch Robotaxi are ongoing in 5 other cities. And as they ramp up production of Cybercab, they expect they will swap out the Model Ys that currently make up the fleet. Many feel the expansion of Robotaxi is taking too much time, probably also because Musk tends to put out very tight deadlines. As he has often mentioned, he tries to put deadlines that he thinks have a 50% chance of being achieved, so not impossible but very hard. The rationale behind it is that the more time you plan for something, the longer it will actually take. By creating this incredible sense of urgency, Musk tries to get the utmost out of his companies and people, with some success. But back to Robotaxi. This is what Elon had to say about their approach to the rollout.
We've expanded Robotaxi to Dallas and Houston using the same software source in the Bay Area. The limiting factor for expansion is really rigorous validation, making sure things are completely safe. We don't want to have a single accident or injury with the expansion of Robotaxi, and we have, to the credit of the team, not had a single one to date.
So 0 accidents, which is a very tall order, but necessary, because A, it will help them to ramp faster in the long run, and B, given the fact that half of the planet hates Elon, he would get absolutely trashed in the media if there would be a serious accident. Next is their energy business. Like I mentioned on X, the biggest miss of this quarter was their 8% year-on-year decline in energy deployments to 88 gigawatt-hour. The CFO had this to say about it.
The energy storage business is inherently lumpy, tied to customer deployment timelines. However, we still expect 2026 deployments to be higher than 2025.
This means the coming quarters will have to show significant growth. As we will see in the financial section, the increasing share of this business in Tesla's total revenue is great for margins, though they again reiterated that these will be compressed over time due to competition. So let's talk about Optimus, Tesla's humanoid robot. The footage you might have seen of Optimus is actually version 2.5. The company is putting the final touches on version 3, which is supposed to be a major leap forward, but for some reason they are keeping us waiting. Elon went into the reason why.
The V3 Optimus design is almost ready to demonstrate. I think we want to just make sure it's like polished. Like it works functionally, but there's some aesthetic elements that need to be finalized. I think probably middle of this year we should be able to show it off. We're also a little hesitant to show V3 off because we find our competitors do a frame-by-frame analysis whenever we release something and copy everything they possibly can. So I think there's some value to, not showing new technology until it's close to production.
So hopefully we'll see it in the middle of this year. In the call, Elon also went into how hard it will be to scale production for Optimus, given that every part will be new. And finally he mentioned that he would like to have Optimus be useful outside of Tesla somewhere next year. Hey guys, a quick pause. If you're liking this kind of research, let me tell you what LIVICUS really is. It is my open source portfolio where I personally invest in and hunt for high quality growth stocks that still have massive upside potential, the ones that haven't blown up yet and aren't on most people's radar. I do deep dives on their progress and quarterly earnings, and every week I drop a news video where I go through everything that has moved the portfolio, plus my buy, hold and sell decisions based on my models. And all of it in a grounded, no BS way, so you can basically manage your own portfolio just by watching 2 videos a week with me. If that sounds useful, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Let's move on to AI and chips. All of their products are infused with AI, and chips are at the heart of it all. In April, they completed the final chip design of their next generation AI5 inference processor. Their current AI4 chip is primarily used in their cars, plus a small role in the workload in their Cortex 1 and 2 training data centers for FSD and Optimus, which are primarily leveraging NVIDIA chips. AI5 will be important for Optimus and Cybercab, but it is also expected to play a somewhat bigger role in their data centers. Tesla is planning to come out with several future generations of these chips. AI6 is expected to power the next generation, so V4, of Optimus and ground-based data centers. But it's with AI7, which Elon often uses interchangeably with Dojo 3, that things get really wild. These chips are intended to power space-based AI compute, or orbital data centers. These chips will most likely be overkill for edge computing in products like their cars and Optimus. In order to roll out their full roadmap, they will need both a massive amount of these chips and the ability to innovate quickly to reach AI7 as soon as possible. This This is where the Terrafab project comes in, which they will build together with SpaceX. Following an analyst question on the call, the team provided the following details. Tesla will start by building a research fab on a Giga Texas campus. It will probably cost around $3 billion and produce a few thousand wafers per month. The goal is to try out different ideas for improving the fundamental technology of how chips are made, and some new physics that they would like to test out. Subsequently, SpaceX is going to take care of the initial phase of the scale-up of Terafab. And Intel will partner with them on some of the core manufacturing technologies. They plan to use Intel's 14A process to build chips, which is so state-of-the-art that it hasn't even been launched yet. Beyond chips, Tesla is working on digital Optimus, sometimes called macro-hard, which is a wordplay on Microsoft. This is an intelligence layer, so software intended to automate digital workloads. You can think of it like the humanoid robot, but digital. So instead of asking it to fold the laundry or build a chip fab, it handles digital workload. And finally, like I said in the beginning, Tesla mentioned in their quarterly report that they agreed to buy a physical AI company in April for $2 billion. The company is not named, and I cannot find any good guesses anywhere, so we'll just have to wait and see. Let's have a look at their Q1 2026 financial results. Revenue came out at $22.4 billion, which is almost 16% above Q1 of 2025. As you can see in this chart that breaks down the revenue by business segment, this is driven by higher vehicle sales and services and other, which increased by 42%, partially by a 51% increase in FSD subscriptions. This was offset to some extent by lower energy deployments and regulatory credits. Like I mentioned, energy deployment for 2026 is expected to land above 2025, but I highly doubt we are going to see future increases in regulatory credits. The next chart shows gross margin or GM for each segment. Regulatory credits are pure profit, hence the 100%. Energy gross margin in yellow increased significantly to 40%, but the improvement is mainly driven by one-off benefits and tariffs. Margin for this business is expected to compress through competition, mainly coming from China. Automotive margins also mainly improved due to one-off tariff impacts. Finally, services and others continue to show strong gross margin at 9%, helped by the increase in FSD subscription, which probably has a 80 to 90% gross margin. This all results in the following absolute gross margin picture. The different business units' contribution is quite different from the revenue picture. Moving down the P&L, we get to operating expenses, or OPEX. In this chart, I show cost of revenue, or cost of goods sold, OPEX and operating income all expressed as a percentage of revenue. The logic here is that they together sum up to 100%. If cost of revenue plus OPEX are less than 100%, there's positive operating income. In this case, you can see an increase in OPEX to 17% in Q1, which is a 37% increase in absolute terms versus last year. This was mainly driven by heavy AI and R&D spend, share-based compensation provisions for Elon's performance package, and higher SG&A costs to keep up with the growing fleet. Taking out a few other expenses, we arrive at Tesla's net profit, which does not look amazing. However, Tesla's P&L is impacted by a lot of non-cash items, such as share-based compensation, depreciation, and fluctuations in their Bitcoin holdings. A good metric to look at is their free cash flow, or FCF. This is the net amount of cash the business generates and spends through the normal course of operations, called operating cash flow, minus Capex investments. Here you can see the FCF generation as well as their cash balance per quarter. You can see their FCF doubled versus last year. This picture is going to change drastically. Capex was about $2.5 billion in Q1, but they expect this to be more than $25 billion for the full year. Here's what the CFO mentioned about their Capex plan.
As Elon mentioned, we are in a very big capital investment phase, which is going to start now and would last a couple of years. So based on that, our current expectation for 2026 is over $25 billion of Capex. We are paying for 6 factories. We're further increasing our investment in AI-related initiatives, including the AI infrastructure to support Robotaxi and the launch of Optimus. While this may seem a lot, and we will have the impact of negative free cash flow for the rest of the year, we believe this is the right strategy to position the company for the next era. We'll make such investments in a very capital efficient manner.
So continued high Capex spend and at least negative FCF for this year. Let's move on to the forecast and my price corridor until the end of 2028. This is an update of my model that I explained in this video. Check it out if you want to understand the different assumptions that go into it. In a nutshell, it's the forecast of the total P&L based on my projections for all the different business lines. This results in an adjusted earnings per share or EPS forecast, which is basically net profit minus share-based compensation divided by shares outstanding. You can see the projection here. You can also see that it starts to go pretty wild by 2030 as Robotaxi and Optimus start to move the needle. The EPS forecast is the first piece to the puzzle of our share price corridor. The second is the average price-earnings ratio reflected in the chart here. The light blue line indicates the average 12-month forward price-earnings ratio at which the stock has traded over the past 12 months. You can think of this as the average amount of dollars investors have been willing to spend for each dollar Tesla earns in the following 12 months. The reason why it's based on earnings of the next 12 months is because investors decide what the stock is worth based on future earnings potential. This comes out at 195 with a standard deviation of 32, indicated by the gray band. Now, this is very high, but it reflects the belief of investors that Elon will be able to realize astronomical value in the future like he has done many times in the past. If we take our EPS forecast and multiply it by the price-earnings ratio we just discussed, we get to the following share price corridor until the end of 2028. So this means the forecast is taking into account the EPS forecast until the end of 2029, since the share price projection for the end of 2028 is based on the expected earnings of the following 12 months. This means I now see an upside of 137% between now and the end of 2028. The chart is also very interesting to determine if it's a good time to buy or not. Here you can see a zoomed in version of the chart we have just discussed. As you can see, the stock is trading in the upper half of the gray band, meaning it is relatively expensive. Now, if you're in it for the next decade, it doesn't matter too much, but to get the most out of it, it could be smart to wait a bit for a lower entry point. It's generally a good idea to build up a position in a phased way to make sure you don't overpay, taking advantage of short-term dips. So to summarize, Tesla is on track to fully transform to an AI robotics company, and they are putting their money where their mouth is. Elon Musk remains the most capable company builder of our generation, and he seems as driven as ever. Of course, that doesn't mean buying Tesla is a sure thing. There are risks absolutely everywhere, but as long as nothing happens to Elon, I like their chances. Alright, that wraps up today's video. I hope you got some value out of it. If you are enjoying the content, please do me a quick favor. Follow, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive or weekly update. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. These are just my opinions. Please supplement them with your own research before making an investment decision.